Welcome back. I'm Mr. Rankin. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 14, Business 125, Investing in Bonds. Some of the learning objectives are knowing how to invest in bonds, understanding some of the basic terminology, and calculate the value of a bond. We're not going to do that in this video, but we're going to touch on the first couple. Again, these videos are short 5-minute overviews of the chapter, just some of the highlights. So let's remind you of the difference between stocks and bonds. Stocks is actually ownership, whereas a bond is actually a loan. You're loaning somebody, could be a corporation, could be a municipality, could be a government. You're loaning them money. Key benefit is when you loan them money, they're going to pay you interest on that loan, and eventually they're going to pay you back the original amount of the loan. So you're going to get interest, and you're going to get the principal or the amount of the loan back at the end of the term, often called at the maturity. If you look at historical returns relative to risks, obviously the highest returns, historically speaking, we can't predict the future, historically speaking have been common stocks. Then bonds are somewhere in the middle between cash or savings accounts and stocks. So they're less risky than stocks, a little lower return, more risky than keeping your money in a savings account, but a little higher return. So they're kind of halfway between the two. So what are bonds good for? Well, first of all, they're lower risk than owning all stocks. But one of the big advantages is they provide a very predictable flow of income, the interest payment. So if you're an older, retired couple and you want steady income, bonds are often a very good choice. And they pay a higher rate of return than the cash or the savings account. So what are some of the risks? Well, the biggest risk is, like any loan, if the person you loan the money to defaults or doesn't pay you back the original amount of the loan, then that's a big risk. The other risk, the second risk, is inflation, and that gets into the valuation of bonds. If inflation goes way up, i.e. interest rates go way up, then the price of your bond is going to decline because no one's going to pay. If your bond pays 5% interest and current interest rates because of inflation are 20%, then your 5% is a relatively inferior investment, and therefore the price will decline. Those are the two big risks with bonds. Several types of bonds. The type of bond is defined by who you're loaning the money to. I could loan money to a corporation. That would be a corporate bond. I could loan the money to the government. That would be a government or treasury bond. I could loan the money to a municipality, a town, a city. That would be a municipal bond. Now, because the biggest risk of a bond is that they don't pay me back or they default, bonds come with what are called ratings, and the rating agencies, the two major ones are Moody's and Standard & Poor's. And just like individuals have credit scores, bonds have bond ratings based on whether the highest quality or whether they're relatively speculative. Most investors would probably want to stay away from what's called junk bonds down here in these categories because they can't absorb, most individual investors can't absorb the risk of if the person defaults and doesn't pay back the loan. Just a couple of buzzwords, there are lots of them, but par value is the amount of the loan. The coupon interest rate is the interest rate. And the maturity is how long the bond is for. That's a very quick overview of bonds and how they might fit into your investment portfolio. Any questions? There's my email. Have a great week.